welcome to another episode of My Property World. I'm Will Mallard, and I'm delighted to be joined by Mo Hacker. Great to have you here, Mo.
Thanks, Will. Nice to be here.
So we're actually going to be talking all about you. My Property World is the name of the podcast, and it's your property world. So do you want to give listeners a quick flavour of what you're up to now, and we can go back into where it all began?
Okay, yeah. So thanks for having me on. So at the moment, what I'm up to, so we've got two primary businesses. One is KHP Group, which is a commercial to residential conversion company. So we convert care homes, sort of former care homes, schools. We've done chapel conversions and stuff like that into apartments generally that we sell. So high-end apartments that we sell, focusing on heritage and listed buildings, not always, but trying to focus where we can on heritage and listed buildings. They make amazing places to live, and they're like great projects to work on. And the second business is Moreview Property, and within that we've got a lettings business, Moreview Lets. We've got a HMO refurbishment company. We own our own HMOs and a couple of flats. So they're the sort of main they're the main two areas, and then we've got our holding companies where we hold some of our property and stuff like that. So
okay, so you're definitely in property. There's no question about that. So where did it all begin? Take us back to childhood.
Okay, where
did you grow up?
I was actually born in Turkey. My full name is Murat Haker. Everyone calls me Mo. But so I was born in Turkey, moved to the UK when I was 2, and grew up in sort of near Southend-on-Sea in Essex, in the southeast of England. So that's sort of where it all began. Grew up with my mum, so she brought me up. And from a sort of business point of view, I was okay at school. I went to a grammar school. I was very lucky to sort of go to a grammar school. I was okay at school, but I was always felt quite entrepreneurial, and I had various different business ventures that I did. I sort of got involved with the school tuck shop, classic example of like school tuck shop and doing different businesses like that. I actually had there used to be, I don't know if it's still around, there used to be a franchise sort of business, or actually it was more like an MLM, multi-level marketing business called Kleeneze, which was like a door-to-door. You basically posted these sales catalogs for like Tupperware, and it wasn't actually Tupperware, it was other stuff like home and garden stuff. You posted the brochures through people's doors. They would then fill out their card details and fill out what they wanted, and then you go and collect them a few days later, and then you'd put in the order, and then you'd go and deliver the stuff, and then you'd get like a bit of a commission on it. But it was all like MLM, so like you had a team, you were supposed to build a team, and
so
there were all
multi-level
these
marketing for those.
Yeah, there were all these multi-millionaires at the top of the pyramid. So like stuff like that, obviously that didn't work that well, and had various businesses. Actually, the tuck shop was pretty profitable. And what sort
of items were the top sellers back then?
Oh God, probably not. Probably not that dissimilar to now. Like sort of, I suppose, like Monster Munch and Twix and stuff like that. But the problem was I enjoyed it so much that I ended up bunking off school. I was actually, I think I was doing ASs then, but just bunking off school to go and go to Costco or go to Booker's, the sort of the wholesalers, and go and buy all the stuff. So that was sort of the issue with it. I like that more than the school stuff. So I ended up doing a vocational. I didn't get great AS level, so I ended up doing a vocational course, actually teaching, learning to teach water sports, and do like sort of water sports management. It was a BTEC, but ended up getting effectively 2A levels, and I managed to get distinctions in them for doing this like vocational course where I got 2 days were spent on the water. I got Wednesdays off and then 2 days in the classroom, which is amazing.
And how were you viewing just shifting back into the tuck shop? How did you view that as a business at that time? And what age did you start it, and when did you finish?
I think I would have been, I was driving, so I must have been 17. So I must have been doing my ASs. So yeah, I was about 17 when I was driving my car. I mean, the margins were great. So
you'd buy a Twix for how much, and what was?
Oh God! Well, in the multi, I think it's like 50% margin on the Twix. Yeah,
wow,
it's like 100% markup. Yeah, because you buy them in, you buy it all in bulk. So it's like, it might even have been less, to be honest. It might even have been like, you know, at the time you sell it for like 50p and you buy it for like 20p.
So it's a little bit like HMO rooms in some respects.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, I just knew from that point, well, from before then, but that was like really like solid, sort of really like doing that, and actually like doing it way more. And even just like the accounting side and like counting the money and like reinvesting the money. And I can't remember what we did with the money. Probably we had to pay some to the school, and then we sort of split the rest between us and stuff. And then reinvesting. That was the other thing. It was like reinvesting in stock as well. So like had a bit of a float to get going, and then actually like the more you did, the more you could reinvest and stuff like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. Went and did this vocational course in Falmouth. Went and did water sports and got my enough UCAS points to get into uni, and then got to uni. And then actually the first business I did at uni was something called uni textbooks, which was basically university textbooks are so expensive. They're like that big, like really thick, and they're about, I don't know, when I was there, like 35, 50 quid, maybe some of them were more. And you literally needed them for like a term, maximum a year, and then they were sort of redundant, and you just sort of had these really expensive books. But then obviously the next year of students would need exactly the same book. Sometimes the versions would change, but most of the content stayed the same. So we sort of, I suppose the best way to say it was sort of a Gumtree / eBay, but just for local. So you'd meet up locally, and there wasn't really any postage, because it was designed for like, there was a reading list for your specific university for your course, and you just sell them onto the next year's thing. So we started that. That was quite funny. We did a bit of stuff on that. And actually, my business partner that I did it with, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he took it on after. And one of the next layers was, if they didn't have the book you needed, you automatically then got a link to Amazon to buy the book, and then you got like a sort of affiliate fee through referring to Amazon. So that was, yeah, it was just like love doing it, and love the concept of it, and trying to solve a problem and stuff like that. So and then actually, by the time I was in my third year of uni, well, I did 2 years, then I did an industrial placement, and in the industrial placement year, myself and my now business partner, one of my business partners, bought our first property then. And I've still got I put it on my Instagram a little while ago, but I've still got the original business plan that I did for like my mum to borrow some money. And I was like explaining the pros and cons of property. It was really funny, like the risks associated with property. I was like saying I was going to sell my windsurfing kit as collateral in case like I defaulted on the loan, and like it was quite well put together, really, considering when I did it, when I was like probably 24, when I did it. So.
And what was your mum's reaction to this?
Well, my mum's great. So I think probably she, I'm very, very privileged that she was in a position that she could lend me like whatever it was at the time, 10k or something. We bought our first property on a residential mortgage with our salaries that we had through our industrial placement years. I was earning about 10k, and my business partner was earning probably about 16k. And between us, we managed to get this mortgage. So we only needed 10% deposit, and then we had a bit of money to do the works and stuff. So yeah, I'm very, very lucky that my mum supports me in everything I do. But she doesn't make it easy. She's like, wants to read through the details and challenge on the things, and push on the certain. How sure are you?
24, you've put together a written business plan. You've got a couple of business, I suppose, ventures under your belt at that stage. And there's obviously a bit of ambition starting to form. Was there much of a plan, not the business plan for the property, but for what Mo was actually going to be doing?
As in my career, or?
Yeah.
Well, I was doing business economics with accounting, so I sort of knew that I wanted to do something in business, and the sort of fallback was I just get a graduate job, which is actually what I ended up doing. Not fallback, but the plan was to get a graduate job and then do property on the side, which is ended up how it ended up working. So I went to work for Lloyds Bank, and then worked for HSBC, and then eventually realised actually I just want to do property full time. So actually, there's one more I just mentioned. There's one more thing we did at uni, which I actually did with one of my current business partners, James. We hired a carpet cleaner because we wanted to get our deposit back on one of our student properties. I think it was our second year. So we hired this like carpet cleaner. And we thought, well, we've hired this carpet cleaner. How much it was? 20 quid, 30 quid to hire it. We're like, surely other people would pay us to go and clean their carpets so they get their deposits back. So we created all these leaflets and went around leafleting everywhere, and didn't clean one carpet aside from our own. Literally no one was interested. We'd like got thousands of flyers, printed them off, paid to get them printed, and then put them through all these letterboxes, and just no one cared. So that was quite funny.
But it was a good idea.
In principle, it's a good idea. Yeah, like if you're going to get charged whatever 50 quid, 100 quid for by your managing agent, then I just think most people probably didn't care as much about us as getting our deposit, about getting their deposit back as we did.
Okay, and then so you're working in banking. What sort of roles? What product specializations? Customer bases?
I did the Lloyd's. So we had one property by then, and then James and I went and we lived in our final year. We added a room in the sort of converted the attic. Then we rented the rooms out and went and did our grad scheme jobs. So I worked for Lloyd's Bank. I did, you sort of move around every 6 months. So I worked in risks to start with, like compliance. Then I did some time in commercial real estate, and it was basically helping the businesses that sort of got into financial difficulty in like 2008, 2009. So it was really eye-opening actually, because a lot of them were house builders, developers. So it was really interesting to see sort of the other side of it, but how the bank was sort of supporting them to sort of get through it. So that was one of my placements. That was up in Scotland, and then I did some stuff in transaction banking and stuff like that. But then I ended up going back to risk when I finished my graduate placement. And then in HSBC, I basically got headhunted by a recruiter to go and work in HSBC as a contractor, basically doing what I was doing anyway. I was doing risk data aggregation and reporting. So again, after sort of 2008, 2009, the banks realized that they didn't have the clarity of board level reporting that they sort of needed, and they didn't have access to like data that was up to date and accurate and all that kind of stuff. So I went and did some project work on that. Did that for a couple of years, and then just like in parallel we were doing property, and just realized that actually during that time I just wanted to be doing property all the time. So
and where were you when you made this like penny drop? I'm going into property. That's it.
Sat in where I was working in Canary Wharf in the HSBC building, and I was just like, what am I doing? I'm like, every break I'm like talking about property with my business partner. I'm calling him. I'm doing something with solicitors. I'm like, doing something like that. I'm at my desk. I'm not on my phone. It's just like, I want to be doing this all the time. It was really tough, and probably I stayed longer than I should have done, because it was decent money that I was earning, but actually what I was passionate about was property, and with it, it's the business side of property. Like property I think it's a great asset, but I actually enjoy the business side of it. So that's what I really, really enjoyed.
And so what were the sort of first ventures forward in terms of turning this into a venture as opposed to a one or two property?
Well, it basically involved, so it basically involved, to start with, it involved James and I doing everything. So we dug out basements and filled it with concrete to create a tank tick, filled it with concrete to create a bedroom down there. Like I said, did the attic conversion. James basically project managed one of our properties and lived on site. This was while I was still working. So to start with, it was us doing everything ourselves. And then in 2016, I think it was, we started our lettings business, and we to sort of roll in the management of our own units, which we were doing ourselves up until that point. And then we took on some rooms that another property investor had, who's now one of our business partners as well. Phil, he had some HMO rooms, so we started managing those to sort of spread the cost of the person that we'd employed to fill rooms. And that was sort of the start of the letting business. We got a virtual assistant, Jeff, who's still working with us. He's based in the Philippines. He helped us out with some sort of admin work, and he's still with us. And we got Jen, who's was working with us till recently, and now she's gone to work in her wife's business. But she was one of our first employees. James's mum basically worked for us, helping us out, and that was the sort of formation of the lettings business, which was the first thing we did.
And what were some fun stories from in that sort of initial formative stage? Because you've come a long way, but it very rarely goes perfectly smoothly. Or
I mean, there's so many. I was actually just looking for some photos of one of our old deals, and I found a video, and it's basically, we had a break-in at one of our first ever developments. I think we're going to talk about it later, but one of our first ever developments was a care home conversion into 10 flats, and we had a break-in there. And I've got a video when we caught the guys that were there. And I say guys, I mean, they were like basically 13-year-old boys, and we would have been, what was that, 2016? So we would have been like 30 at the time. And we got this video where we caught these two guys, and I've got one of them, and I've like pinned him up against the wall. And my business partner's caught the other one. He's lost his glasses in the process. And I think I say, "What's your name?" And the guy says his name's James, but at exactly the same time, the other guy says his name's Ben. And then the other one just looks at him and says like, "Oh, I can't believe you just stitched me up, you like idiot." And he swears in it. And it was just like, it was just
dumb
funny,
and
like,
dumber.
Well, exactly, yeah. And you know, on the one hand, they're just kids and they're messing around, but on the other side, it's like, well, it's money if they cause damage, but also it's like dangerous if they fall down a hole on a building site. It's, you know, it's us.
100%. There's not an insignificant number of quite serious accidents and people breaking into sites and
And we actually found out that it basically been put on like a Facebook chat group where all these kids were like, "Oh my God, there's this building and it's empty and it's like haunted probably," and all this other stuff. And so that was quite a funny story, just topical, because I just looked up the video. But yeah, there's loads of stuff. Like one of the first things we had some service accommodation units, and we hired one of our members of the team who's still with us, Laura. And her first day, she had to take a call from environmental health, who were complaining about one of our service accommodation units. And it was so good because it was literally her first day. She picked up the phone, she answered it, and she just completely blagged them, and she like completely winged it. And it was like, you're gonna fit in really well if you can just pick up the phone and just freestyle and just be like, talking to someone from the council who's complaining about noise. There's so many. It's been a real journey, and it's good fun.
And in terms of choosing property strategies, like you've stayed relatively local most of the way through so far. What were what was the thought process around what to actually do?
Well, I mean, we've definitely been guilty of sort of shiny penny syndrome, I think, and for me, like, there was at one point I started an Amazon business, right? Because I went on a training course, and there was like they were promoting Amazon. I did that. We've done service accommodation, we've done sourcing, we've done refurbs, we've done lettings, we've done developments, we've done our own stuff, we've done rent to rent. So we've definitely done all of that, and now, like, over the last few years, like, started to hone in on like what is our niche, what do we like doing, what do we want to do. And I suppose it's a means to an end. Like, rent to rent service accommodation is good for cash flow, great, but unless you scale it and focus on doing it as a business model, like, one of the reasons we're in property is to buy property and to hold it forever. And doing rent-to-rent service accommodation doesn't give you that. It gives you a nice amount of cash flow, and it helped, pay our salaries when we were building the business. But I think we've definitely been guilty of doing too many things, and now we're sort of honing in on what we want to do going forward and what's sort of profitable.
And it's always interesting to look at the comparison of how the rent-to-renter does versus the property owner over, just say it's a 5-year contract period, and which of the 5 years you decide to do it and where. Obviously vary it a little bit, but
I mean, I think we've been on both sides of it. At the moment we're leasing a property out that someone, in fact 2 properties that someone takes on and rents out, and we were previously the one that did the renting. I think the main thing to resolve on rent to rent is sort of maintenance costs and timelines. Because if you're renting somewhere and you've got someone coming in tomorrow, you need it resolved, or if there's someone mid-stay and there's an issue, they need it resolved as soon as possible. So having that really clear is sort of a way to make it successful. I think service accommodation, you can definitely make more money. It's definitely up and down, and sort of there's peaks and troughs to it, especially if it's seasonal as well. But it's a lot of work. It's just a lot of work. You can systemize it as much as you want. And one of the things that I really didn't like was just the sort of sinking feeling when you get a call at Saturday evening, and you're just like, you just know it's like a maintenance issue. And there's
one interesting thing that I think listeners would like your views on. People traditionally get involved in property investment in an accidental way. But they're in a couple and they move into one of the houses and rent the other. And then usually the expansion of that is that there's you get another buy to let. And then at some point, you become aware of other strategies. You either go bigger, there may be some uplift or something unusual where you get an opportunity to expand out. You may have got a wall from somewhere else. But what you guys did from the start was you started as partners. And in my view, it's the key to growing, certainly past a particular stage, unless you've got significant capital inflows that that are unusual. What's your view on partnership? How has that changed, and what do you think the key bits are?
So I think I think we couldn't have done what we've done without partnering up, and I think but at the same time I would caution against doing too many partnerships, and I think we've definitely been down that route as well, or maybe not doing so many, but having some test period where you sort of go through, you're not committed for life. It's like you do a test project or a couple of projects, and then you've got a way that you can exit if you want. So I think on the good side, so James and I are business partnered. His background's construction. He loves the construction side. I've done business and finance, so that works really well. We've partnered with Phil and Carl and Zai in our KHPR development business, and that's been amazing. We've got loads of partners that are sort of equity investors or fixed interest rate investors, so that's worked really well. I think that the thing you just got to be careful of is the relationship management overhead with all of the partners you've got. So making sure that you are not doing so many partnerships that you can't give the individual partners the time that they need, and just managing those relationships is key. And I think we've definitely at times been in a position where we've got too much stuff going on, and you feel a bit stretched. And again, we've gone out and done a load of different strategies and now honing in over the last few years about what we're good at and what we enjoy and what's profitable, which are all linked obviously. We've definitely been partners with too many people at one time as well. Yeah, I think.
How do you decide what to do? Like what projects, what strategies, what level of risk that you take on? How many projects that you're going for at once? Because it would be very rare that there's like a perfect equality of view.
Yeah. So in terms of the businesses, we've tried to do businesses where there's some synergies between the businesses. So we've done sourcing HMOs, we refurbish them, and then we manage the lettings. So we don't do the sourcing anymore, but we still refurb for people that want their projects managed, and then we'll manage them. So that works really well. And we've got our own properties, which then drop into the management company to manage those as well. We've done some developments that also then at the end of it, you get HMO, you've got HMOs that we've refinanced and held on to, and again they fall into management. So we tried to, from that side of it, we tried to do businesses that have synergies. From a development point of view, I suppose it's case by case, but you've got to look at the capacity of the team that you've got, and the number of different strategies that you're going for. So if you're doing, you don't want to just be doing speculative planning deals, and we don't want to just be doing conversions to HMOs. We're going to hold on to. You've got to
put milk in the fridge on the way through.
Yeah, exactly. You got to. Yeah, exactly. You got to do that. You can't. Yeah. You can't spend your equity at Waitrose, so you got to have some stuff that pays you as well. Yeah, that's it. And then not trying to, like I said, have too many different partners with too much stuff going on.
And so you're now a number of years into your property career, having started relatively young to the average person in property. So you've grown up together to an extent in property.
Yeah.
How would you advise someone looking to get involved at some stage? Would you follow a similar path, or and I'm thinking about someone that may be a similar age, but haven't actually done much in property outside perhaps owning their own property?
So I think there's two routes. I think if you've got a decent job that pays you, I would probably encourage you to build up some property stuff on the side, both experience and cash flow. And I think I always think about, if I'd stayed another 6 months, 12 months in work, would it have made the transition easier, or actually was just sort of ripping the plaster off the best thing to do? But I think probably the sensible advice for other people is to try and lower your lifestyle costs a bit, build your, nothing's truly passive, but build some kind of passive income or rental income or something up on the side. Use the benefits that you've got. So is it the connections you've got in work? Is it the fact that you can get a mortgage because you've got a job? There's positives when you're sat in a job you hate or you're not massively keen on. You just tend to look for the negatives. But actually, there are quite a few benefits in terms of getting a mortgage. In terms of there might be investors there might be there might be things that you're learning that that are transferable. I know I had a lot of transferable skills that I brought over to property from the sort of corporate world. So if you can build some income up on the side before you make the leap, that will make it a lot easier. Or if you really, really hate your job, or if you aren't earning that much, or you don't have a job at all, then just focus on cash flow strategies to start. So whether that's doing management, whether it's doing rent to rent, whether it's doing, probably not deal sourcing. I think there's all these like make 3K in 30 days. I actually don't think that's a good strategy. You want some cash flow to start with. Like, you've got to pay your bills. 3K is great, but if it takes you 90 days and can you live on that? Maybe you can if you live at home, but if you live with your parents. So yeah, just focus on some cash flow stuff, and get that started if you've not got a job, or if you don't like the job you've got.
And in terms of that sort of moment that you'd come out of HSBC Tower in Canary Wharf, this enormous iconic tower, huge organization, thousands of people wandering around, and then I imagine you're in a small office or in someone's kitchen table,
Yeah.
What was the feeling at that point?
Well, I'm not going to lie. To be honest, at the time, there was like most of the time, it was amazing and it was great and it was like freedom and it was, working with one of my best mates and really enjoying the ride. But there was times when I was like, especially when the money was tight, it was like, have I made the right decision? And I think that's because of the difference in what I was earning when I started doing property to what I was earning when I was working was considerable. So yeah, and you were right in what you said. It was sat around a kitchen table, and we used to have our like board meetings at Costa Coffee. There was like a drive-through Costa Coffee that had a small like restaurant as well. We used to have our team meetings there and stuff. We didn't have an office, so yeah. At times it was tough, and you do question whether you've done the right thing. But yeah, it worked out. It's worked out really well. But it was tough that first leap.
And we're going to get you back on for a more in-depth look at a specific deal that I think people will be really, really interested in.
Yeah.
Could we just do a quick run through a couple of deals and that you've been involved with? Just briefly, what they were, the rough numbers involved, how you structured the finance, and how it worked out, and what did you learn?
Yeah. So we'll start with the one I'm going to go through on that episode. So this was one of the first deals that we did with Crowd Property. It was the first deal we did with Crowd Property. Sorry, it was quite early on when Crowd Property were growing. So it's still the time when it would take it would take a couple of weeks to actually get funded. Like now it's like instant, but it actually took, you could see the money counting up at the time, which was quite funny. And we were like a couple of weeks, and it actually was probably a record at the time. It was like quick. So we bought for 320K. It was I want to say it was a 16-bed care home, something like that. Grade 2 listed, like really nice. It was in just over the bridge into Cornwall. It was in Saltash, so just over when you go from Devon to Cornwall. So really, really nice. It was sort of not far from the coast. And we had a look around. It had gone into administration. It was really sad because there was still like Christmas decorations up and things like that, but it had gone into administration. And we ended up turning it into 10 flats. So we had 7 1-beds, 2 2-beds, and a 3-bed flat. The building sort of lent it, we'll talk more about it in detail, but it lent itself quite nicely to the conversion because it was like the main building and then there was like a later addition extension. And yeah, that was one of the first projects that we did with our business partners before we actually formally started KHP. It was like the first sort of project that we did with them. And it worked really well. So I've got the numbers here. So we bought 320. The planning, we spent 25K on because one of our business partners was an architect, so he did the drawings. The works was 450 all in, including contingency. We spent 137 on finance, including fees. So we were all in for just over $1 million. And we sold the units in the end for about 1.4. So it was just under 400K was profit. So 40% profit on cost.
And from way to go, what sort of time frames?
So we first viewed it in August 2015. We bought it in April 2016. So about 8 months from viewing it to buying it. And then by November we had 6-7 months we had the show flat, and I think we finished it at the beginning of 2017 and sort of exited the first part of it. And
within the partnership, like there's a degree of creativity to see something and to see a change, to look into the future, to get all of the elements together, because a redevelopment project's in some ways even harder than a development project, because
definitely
you've got site constraints, you've got all sorts of things going on, none of which are in the original plan. And how did you decide you're going to do this project, and then as these issues emerge, how do you work in together?
Yeah, so I generally will go around and look at the projects, and I did on this one. Had the first viewing, got really excited about the potential of it. hugely underestimated the amount it would cost to convert it. I think when I first went round, I think I said I thought it'd be like 50, 100K to convert it, because I was like, I saw it and I was like, yeah, a few flats, blah blah blah. I didn't really know, how much it would cost. So but I think you need that up front. You need like stupid optimism and creativity, and to think, actually, I'm open to everything. Like, there must be something we can do. It's so cheap. If you think about 320K, that's like, well, back then that's like 1.5 HMOs. We were looking at this huge building, and actually one of the options on this was to potentially to put it back to a big HMO, or put it into a big HMO, because it was already a care home. So you need some like silly optimism up front. Then it goes over to my business partners. One's an architect for design. James is that's Phil. James is the sort of construction expert, and then Kyle is the sort of numbers guy. So, and the finance director. So he'll then like put all the numbers together. We'll get the design input, and go from there. So sort of goes from like optimism to realism to, oh shit, and then to actually, no, this is okay. But from that point of view, the skill set that we've got on the team is good from a problem solving point of view. So whenever there's any issues, you can sort of resolve them.
Very good. And you've got a like a range of strategies in terms of what you're seeking to do, but buying to hold is the default most of the time.
Yeah. Probably not the default. I'd say, like, ultimately, yes, we want to have a large portfolio of property that we rent out, but acknowledging that we need some cash flow in the interim, and we need some development profits for life events like buying a house and a car and moving and all that kind of jazz, going on holiday and stuff like that. So that's why we've done the developments. But as some of the developments we have held on to, I think probably we would have done more developments that we hold on to, but they just don't stack as well, and you end up leaving a bit of money in, and then you're like, well, actually, we've got a bit of debt in there, so we need to do a development that can pay down some of that debt. So you end up doing more. So we're probably like 60% developments that will sell, and 40% that we'll hold on to, separate to our HMO portfolio that we're growing, and flats and things like that. So it's just trying to bring some cash back in to sort of pay down debt. Ultimately, that's the main aim for the developments that we sell.
Right. And are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I love it. I like I say, I love the asset class of property, and I love the business side of it. I'm not that technical, and I don't get involved really with that stuff. I like sales and marketing. I generally, to be honest, the bit I love the most is investor relations. I think, and that's it's what I'm good at. Like, I like talking to people. I like storytelling and pulling everything together, and sort of having the narrative of what we're doing with our company and things like that. And also understanding what other people want. So I think that's been quite good from the investor relations side, because it's like, what do they want out of their investment? Do they want, real like hard security, and they're willing to take a view on the rate? Do they just want to get, are they not risk averse at all, and they just want to get as much, as they can? Do they want their interest serviced monthly? Are they happy for it to be rolled up? Loads of stuff. What's the term they're looking for? Do they want some flexibility because they might have a life event that they need some money out for, and all those kind of things. I like that side of it as well.
And you've been in it a while now as a full-time career. And what's important to you about your business at this point?
I think
like people often, start to develop that after they've begun.
I think, like sustainability and longevity is obviously really important. So we've done some businesses that haven't worked out like we thought they would on paper. Like the rent to rent service accommodation business was good, but then COVID hit, and we got rid of a couple of our properties. So like having sustainability and longevity and when we take team members on, we want them to, we want it to be a long-term employment in the business. So sustainability is important. But I think more than anything now, it's like just doing the right thing and thinking very long-term about things. So long-term, both in terms of like, we're going to own this property forever, but also if I'm in a business partnership or a JV or speaking to a team member or client or tenant or whatever, it's like long-term thinking and doing the right thing. I think that's become really important. I think it was always important, and we did our work on values and things like that, and integrity and honesty was always one of our values. But I think you just want to do things right, and then even if it means leaving a bit of money on the table, because I think it will all it all comes back around eventually. So.
And what are the ambitions? You seem to be doing bigger, even more exciting things, and more of them. So
yeah,
what's the 5-year sort of horizon looking like?
5-year horizon. So we've got a couple of big development projects that one's just got planning, one's on site that we're selling off. So, and we've got another one that's still in planning. So build those out and realize the money that we've got sort of tied up in those and deliver those well and sell those units. Grow the lettings business, keep doing refurbs, grow our own portfolio, some diversification. So I've started to just diversify a little bit, because I'm 99% in property. So just start looking at some other things as well. So
you've got your current account in addition, is it? Or
well, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I've started looking at a bit of Bitcoin. So I've got a bit of Bitcoin now, and just sort of starting to look at other things as well as property, without trying to get distracted by it, but just be like, look, I've got a lot of money in property. I really like property as an asset, but just start looking at some other stuff. But yeah, grow the lettings business, keep buying our own properties, potentially buy some flats as well as HMOs. Like, we've got a fair amount of HMOs, so probably get some flats that sort of we can move people into and not worry about them for a couple of years generally. And yeah, just keep doing developments. Yeah.
Very good. And a little quote or a inspirational thought to close off the session.
Wow, that is a good question. What? Oh no, it's a curveball.
The thing with curveballs, they come in curving, but relatively slowly, and if you time it, you can put them out of the park. So
yeah, I suppose the key thing, like I said, the key thing is to think long term. And I think if you're thinking long term about things, then you'll always end up winning, even if it doesn't feel like it in the short term. So optimizing for long term happiness and success, I think is key. And generally, there's a quote around what was it? Easy. Right, I'm going to butcher this quote. Whoever's quote it is.
Have a go.
Easy choice is hard life. Hard choice is easy life. Right. So it's short term, long term. Have the painful conversations now. If it's painful conversations with loved ones, with your team, with whoever, with a client, whatever. Ultimately, for the long term happiness and success. I think that's key, and that goes back to sort of deferred gratification as well, delayed gratification. So, and that's all important. But yeah, long-term.
Any of the listeners not familiar with your work, or because I think there's some fantastic examples of what you've done, some really beautiful developments, and we've featured you on a previous podcast. I think it was Mike Bristow on the Chapel development. And people can look that up on the back episodes of My Property World. But what's the best way to reach you? What's the website?
Yeah, well, I think that the best thing The best thing to check out is the property vlog on YouTube. So I've been documenting what we've been doing with our various developments.
That's vlog with a V, guys.
With a V, yeah, property vlog. So it's youtube.com, and then it's then /C/the property vlog, which gets you to the channel. We can just type the property vlog in the search bar and bring up the channel. But every video's got my contact details in, my socials and my email and stuff, but it gives you a good visual overview of the projects that we do, who I am, who our teams are, who my business partners are, how we do things. So that's probably the best place.
Well, that's fantastic, Mo Haker. Great to have you on. Thanks very much. I'm Will Mallard. This is My Property World.
Thanks, Will.